All right. So for our topic of goal setting, I am a real advocate for taking time off during this time of year, and you should be spending it with the people that you love, friends and family, really recharging. Yet at the same time, I do believe that you can take time for yourself and think about your future and where you want to be, in the new year. So, if you were like me growing up, I went through this whole like goal setting process. I think back then we called it New Year's resolutions, which I think people still call it that. And, knowing what I used to do, I would come up with a list of things, say like on December 31st that I wanted to accomplish in that next year. And it'd be like a list of 15 things. And then I would be like, okay, I'm going to do these things. I have a whole year to reach these goals. Hooray. Plenty of time. But what ended up happening was that maybe I would meet like half of them. What often happened was that I'd lose sight of, what I needed to do and actually pay consistent attention to those goals. And I think what what I'm describing is something that a lot of people experience. That's why they hate goal setting. But a few years ago, I actually was introduced this method that's called the 12-week year. It's a method that is introduced by a couple of leadership experts. Their names are Brian Moran and Michael Lennington. And it takes this idea of goal setting and puts it into more manageable chunks, essentially 12 weeks, which is like a quarter. They contend that you can, achieve a specific goal that you'd have for the entire year in a 12-week increment of time. And, the thing is here, I mean, whether you agree with that or not, there are a lot of really good learnings to take from their approach. And you can definitely apply it to, career planning. And actually, I've done this the last few years and I've met every single one of my goals. So, I use this in coaching of clients and I want to share, the framework with all of you. So basically, before you get started in this 12-week year approach to career planning, know that it is an approach that, yes, it compresses the amount of time that you have to achieve something. But this is a good thing because one, it allows you to really focus on what matters. So, how I said that I would come up with a list of, say, like 15 goals for the year? There's way too many. This approach really narrows it down to either 1 to 2 goals that you're going to focus on in that period of time. And essentially, every day in this increment of time, you're making progress, you're working on things to get you closer to that goal. And what I love about it is that it keeps you pretty focused and in the flow of, what you are striving for. And it's one of these things where, it's a very achievable amount of time to see and take action. And you won't get lost or forget that you wrote it down. But so let's just walk through some of the fundamentals. Okay, so with this 12-week year approach, the first thing that you want to do is state your goal. Okay, so in this case, even before you narrow it down to the 1 or 2 things that you want to focus on, you can write down a few different things that matter to you. But essentially, you want to boil it down to the most important or the priority for you in this period of time. Okay, and you don't want to have more than the 2 goals, really. So once you've stated what that goal is, it's time to reverse engineer it. So, for example, say you want to land an awesome new job at an exciting company, and you can name this company, by the end of this 12-week period. That's your goal. Very achievable. The thing is, once you've stated the goal, you should then start thinking about all of the actions and things that you need to do to get to that, end point. So By naming these things that you have to do to get there, these are called tactics. Okay, so, I'm going to be sharing with you a few handouts that only, here in the community, you guys get first dibs on, how to plan this all out. But basically, we're going to have a mind map for you so you can start writing all the things, these tactics, actions that you're going to take to get to that goal that you're wanting to achieve. And then once you do your free form writing of all these things that you think are essential to get to that landed position or whatever the goal is for you, you're going to narrow it down again. So yes, there can be a million things that you could be doing to reach your goal, but similar to this idea of just narrowing it down to a few goals, you want to narrow it down to your top 5, maybe top 6 tactics. While you might need to talk to your friend Michelle about what it's like to work at the company that you are eyeing because she works there. You might want to develop that tactic into something a bit more broad, that it's like you should be aiming to have, at least one informational interview with people who are either working at the company or have some direct connect to the company, every other week, right? And so it's not just your friend Michelle, it's someone else too that maybe you don't know yet, but you need to do the legwork behind it to get to know that or to get an introduction to something like that. It can be a little hard, but like it focuses on what the most important things are. So the idea here is once you've established top 5 to 6 tactics, you're going to be, really just creating metrics each week, tying to each of those things and saying, okay, this is what my progress should be this week. And again, this is something that we do share in our documents to help you plan it out, taking it from the idea stage and listing all sorts of things that you need to do and narrowing it down to your top 5 or 6 tactics, and then putting it into a spreadsheet that lines it up for 12 weeks, what those action items are, and then measuring or tracking, at a very specific week-to-week basis, how you're doing.